Hey everyone, welcome to Opal Oracle if you're new, and welcome back if you're returning. Alright, so, excuse me. This is, as you've seen in the title, Saturn retrograde reading for everyone. Now, of course, depending on what house you have it in or where it's transiting for you, naturally speaking, or from your ascendant, however you want to look at it, this is going to include all from Aries all the way through to Pisces. We're going to start with Aries. Just a tidbit of information. I really wanted to do Saturn and Pluto together, but it's kind of so much information, although they're interconnected, so I'm going to do them separately. So, but obviously very important. For this, because it's Saturn, I'm using the Crow Tarot. Thanks, Sonal. Because that's Saturn's bird. Okay, strong bird. Alright, Aries, let's get right into it. And anyone who timestamps, whoever timestamps, I'll do a one card pull for you, because I know it takes time to sit through the whole thing. So, thanks. Alright, let's see what you got, Aries. Very good. The World. And the Three of Swords. I heard worry, worry, don't bother me. And I heard that shoe fly, don't bother me. That too. Well, you're just, Saturn is like, are you done with the pain that you've been holding in your heart? I heard because everyone can, people who are aware can hear it in your voice. And of course we all have pain. We all have a first house, right? We all have Aries in our chart, so just something to remember. It's not going to be something that you figure out tomorrow. It's something that you've already been working on, okay? But I know that there's still work to do. Give me 1 second. Because pain sometimes is like a habit, right? And because you're always moving forward, sometimes it's hard for you to really sit in it, right? But I see it, you need to be in the center of it. And where you actually end up is in the center. You end up not feeling so alone, and you fix something that's so great, having to do with your heart. Having to do with the heart, you know? You solve it, and in the end, there's not just one, but there's two. Right? You're not alone. I sense for most of you, this is pain associated specifically with other people. Although I guess everything is interconnected truly in that way, but there's something that, you know, somebody you really loved that hurt you, or you're afraid that you have fear, right? That warrior comes out. Good. You have fear, and then the warrior comes out instead of the worrier, right? I see you're also, because Cardinal too, you want to fix other people, right? It's natural for you to want to help other people through stuff and get them around the bend, but it's kind of like you got to hold your own hand, regardless of whether you have, you know, friends, family, responsibilities, whatever, your career. all this kind of stuff. It's like you got to hold your own hand and be really gentle with your heart. You do have to have a deep conversation with your heart, because the thing is, Aries, if you do, then you absolutely complete the cycle. And I see for most of you, because I know most of you are about 35 plus, that's when Saturn stops bugging you so much, especially if you had it in a challenging place. It eases up a little bit through maturity, because with Saturn you can only learn so much through time and experience. There's no quick fix for Saturn. And the thing is if you put in the work to assessing it, and, you know, like saying to yourself, like, I'm done with pain. I'm done with pain. I'm done with being sad. I'm done with worrying. I mean, I'm not saying you ain't gonna ever worry again, because you probably will, but the thing is it won't come, because a lot of that worry for things now is because of whatever has happened that hasn't been assessed, right? So I see for you, the number 3 is very important. I did hear the word mother. You know, maybe it's silly, and I've told this to Taurus before, but maybe you want to go inside of your heart, like, every 3 days, or something like that, and just be like, hey, how are you? How are you? Do you have anything to say? What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about anything? Because it's what you're doing is basically talking to your inner child. Talking to the center of you, right? And what you're doing is guiding your child through the archway because that inner self needs your external self to support one another, right? They have to be connected. And I know that there are many dots that you are connecting. This is not something that you are unaware of. There's no way. There's no way. You know exactly what this is. But it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to solve it. I do see something in June. I also see, I guess the eclipses are coming around then too, but you have a 6-month gap, okay? So maybe you do some check-in too, like, you know, because Saturn's all about what did you learn in a way. So maybe every 3 days when you check in with your heart and have that little conversation, or maybe you put away like a half-hour slot or something just for yourself and to sit with yourself and have that ask your heart what's going on, and then tell yourself, your inner self, your external self, the world, like, what you're trying to close and what you're tired of in ways of pain, okay? Or worry, or whatever it is. Like, you got to be like, I want to be done with that. But not because you just want to run off, but because you know what it is and you understand that that's a slope. Because you can't drag a kid, right? Aries wants to run. You can't drag your inner child. They're going to be too scared. And when you get there, they're going to be like, I don't want to be there. Right? So you have to kind of gently, Aries has to slow down and walk with yourself. Okay? I love you. Okay. Taurus. Wow. Judgment and the Page of Cups. Huge cycles. Aries too. Makes sense. You also have Uranus in Aries. I see Capricorn, I see Pisces. I see the Mother for you also. Whatever's going on in your 12th house, or whatever's going on with Pisces, is a big deal. Capricorn too, of course. Saturn to Capricorn, right? This is a part of it. But whatever's going on, because I'm seeing this so strongly as Pisces, there's something about the close of it, right? It's like something already ended, but it needs to be completed. Buried, right? mourned, ultimately. Maybe you've already done this, but you haven't left, and we talked about this, not spending so much time at the graveyard, right? Pisces too, the end of the cycle, judgment, the end, it's Pluto here too. You know, obviously this is very important to you. It's just the end of something, it's just the end of it. I do see you may have to learn how to speak up for yourself, especially when you again, putting your own needs first. Uranus and Aries, right? Uranus in your first house. Your needs are very important, and for those of you who are high-functioning Taurian folks, I know that you take that Venus and you run with it in a real soft way. You're kind of passive. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want the bull to be mad, right? It's too much. But the thing is like, when do you speak up for yourself? This is a significant cycle. For a lot of you, this could have very well to do with death. Things that have died. Also, the cycles in whoever you were defined as 7, 8 years ago. With Chiron also. I mean, your whole life, of course, because Saturn rules karma and time and all these things. But it's... the definition of you is changing. Don't bite me, Hornet, please. Or sting me. Thank you. So scary. Maybe just something like that, Taurus. What did I just say? Please don't sting me. And then I said... that I was a little scared. Is that what I said? So these are little, what did I say? Little practices, right? This is part of, because you rule the throat, Taurus. You have to talk about how you feel. You have to learn how to talk about how you feel and whatever it is that has happened, so that your body, because you have some sort of memory, you have your memories in your body. Maybe that's why a lot of Taurian people, especially men, have like wider throats too, is because you hold so much in, right? Even when I do this, I can't, it's changing the total vibration. Maybe you do that. Put your hand around and listen when you talk. I'm hearing it in this ear. So there's something about that. Because it's your belief systems. I'd also say that, because you have it, I think, in the 9th house, so this is you opening your eyes to God in a different way too, to, again, your belief systems. That's so important. It's so important, and you have to speak up. You have to speak up. You have to say what it is that you know. You have to say what it is that you feel. It's okay for you to do that. It's okay for you to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's normal, actually. It's quite normal. Maybe a lot of you, perhaps, or at least the people I vibe with, the air in your chart is not as communicative, or or Gemini or something like this. But I see that you're fixing that. I see you learning how to say things real square, too. A little bit more square. Not mean, not sharp, just square. Stop being so sideways about it, right? If you feel pain, then you're in pain. So what? You feel annoyed, you're annoyed. You feel happy, you can be happy. You feel ecstatic or passionate about something. Hold on. Come on, dude. Please. That's enough. Perfect example. Again. You can take it from it, right? That's enough. You're allowed to say that. To whatever's going on internally that stirs, that maybe wants to come to the surface, but something pushes it back down, it's okay. You can be like, it's okay. Or like, that's enough for today. But I sense it more with you is like, that's enough has to do with other people in relation to your own needs. And also, when whatever the thing is inside of you, your natural tendency to push stuff down to keep the peace, right? Which you are such a beautifully grounded sign, and it's very helpful, but it's like you have to help yourself. Like again with that wasp, okay? I was fine with it. I knew it really wasn't going to sting me, but it was awfully close. I was trying to be chill, but then eventually I was just like, okay, what's the point here? You're just interrupting what I was needing to do, what I'm trying to do. See what I'm saying? And then what did I say? All right, that's enough, and it left. You know, I didn't have to bat it or, you know, get aggressive about it. It's just kind of like, that's enough, chill out, you know? So there's something about that that's important. I also see for any of you who drink, having better judgments about your drinking is really helpful, because you know that that's just a way to subdue your feelings. That's like an old learned behavior that's not appropriate. But of course, this all breaks down to your own emotional well-being. It's important. There's something about the ocean, literally the ocean, that's important here. The ocean, Pisces, is really, really, really strong, okay? Closing out major, major cycles. Good. Good. Love you. All right, Gemini. This is your Saturn. Wow. Powerful. 2 of Swords, 10 of Swords. Are you done yet? Aries has a message for you. Well, you just have to decide whether you're done. With some really, really old stuff. For you, all mental, right? Because you have like there's like a wound. Well, some of you could deal with like depression or, you know, like some sort of, it's not necessarily like a mental illness, because I don't view it that way. I mean, there's certain perspectives we could go into, but it's where you have mental like angst and pain, right? Through memory, most likely. You know, you are Mercury, you can talk to the gods and you can talk to the underworld, so you have to be more, your heart actually directs how it is that you think. I see for you, wherever you have Leo is very important to the situation. I see the number 3 for you also. It's kind of like, okay, say everything's, because this is Saturn being more patient too, right? That's what it's, a big chunk of what it's about, patience. I think it's interesting that neither one of these cards are talking, right? So there's something about, okay, you rule communication, so when you're not talking, when you talk, you feel comfortable. It puts your energy out here, right? So when you're silent, say Virgo, the next Mercurian sign that you would advance into, right? Virgo is quiet. They're the monk. They're silent. You talk, they're silent. And the reason why a lot of you talk as much as you talk is because when you're silent, then you don't really like what your head says sometimes. You don't really like the way that you think. It's like you don't have a control over your mind. Like, say for instance, everything's fine, right? You had a great conversation with someone, you learned something new, you love this kind of thing, right? You have teaching and things like that. You got all this stuff going on, and then all of a sudden you're quiet with yourself and you just want to cry. right? There's like this moment of silence and you just want to cry. Because I think you loop a little bit sometimes, and you just, this is Saturn lesson for you is so mental. It's like, and we've been talking about this for a while, right? Being more quiet, being more in your body. This is really important, getting out of your head, right? Because some of you think that you can't do something, and actually you block yourself in a way, and you already know this too. When you're trying, okay, so you're finally like honest with yourself more, right? And then you go to the next step, but then you get scared. You know, you break away from things, from self-limiting doubts and thoughts of this nature, and then all of a sudden you get to the next step and you're like, oh fuck, and you become petrified. And then because you can kind of sense that the next steps are like, oh fuck. But it's all internal. So how do you shut it off? Because you can go backwards, right, if you want to. But backwards is longer than forward. And in truth, well, no one can really hide their pain anymore, right? That's why everybody and their mom has been talking about all their traumas all to the world. You know, this never happened in the 80s. People get molested or raped or whatever, kidnapped, even like people didn't really talk about it, even abused, and you know, you get beat as a kid, like no one talked about that, you know. Now everybody and their mom is talking about it. And that's fine. It's cool to get it out, because then we can get over it and then we can get back to going with natural law and stop letting the what we think we're supposed to be doing according to what we've been programmed to do. And I've said it before, but you asked to be Gemini, so part of that is you learning how to communicate better inside of your own skull, so that it doesn't bring you to avenues that cause you pain or despair or like detrimental thinking, to block you from realizing that that stop you from thinking that you can get through the next couple steps, which are no big deal. Maybe they're in the shadow, but so what? So what? You can talk to the gods into the shadow. So what? Right? Something about this, like the brain says something to you, the memory says something to you, you say something, you want to say something, but then you're just kind of like, nope. And you button your lip. You put up a roadblock in your mind so that it can't go that way. It's got to backtrack and keep going with the way you want it to go, right? Having more control over it. Not running around the temple, but actually slowing down and finding where the doorway is, right? So you can find the center place. I do see you need to have a conversation with your heart also, and just check in and see if you're still mad at anybody, if you're still pissed at anybody, if you're still, you have any shoulda, coulda, wouldas that have to do with things where you're like, because you rule communication too, people, places, and things, but mostly people, that you just can't get over the fact that you didn't say that one thing that one time, or you're not accepting yet to where exactly it is that you are. Like, just tap into those and just remind yourself that, like, it's okay that you didn't do that, right? Maybe you need to mourn it a little bit. Be like, shoot, if I would have did this, then my life would have taken this turn and I wouldn't be here now, right? So there's something about going back and then again paying a little bit of attention to it and then moving along, because that'll give you some sort of acceptance and better decision-making power that comes from a really confident place, okay? You just have to decide, are you done with the Ten of Swords yet? Are you done? And you can't just say it, you have to know it. Cool. Love you. Cancer. The Five of Swords and the Hermit. Just a minute. Why do you think you can't do it on your own? What's wrong with that? Why, do you realize yet you can do it on your own if you had to? I see that you've always known who it is that you are. You've always known. But I think you denied yourself some sort of expression of self. You like excluded, and this is the thing with Saturn. This could be happening now, sure, but it all has to do real old past things, okay? I see that Virgo will have a message for you. Leo and Virgo, actually, it goes in order. You, Leo, Virgo, probably Libra too. So yeah, you to the next cardinal sign has like a group of messages. Interesting. Well, I guess what it is like, are you contented yet with what you've had to cut out and what you need to cut out of your life, people, places, and things, including mentalities about situations, okay? Truths about things. To the extent that you're okay with being by yourself. That whatever has been cut out, or whatever hard communication you've had with people, part of that was just to teach you how to understand more about your own mental makeup. Because you're a water sign, but you need to know how to get out of your head. Okay? I think there's like a mental battle in your head a little bit, actually. Maybe there's a little bit of a blockage in there where, and I sense for a lot of you, this has to do with if you have any intestinal problems also. This could have something to do with that. Or like your digestive system. Maybe the way you mentally digest things is what you're figuring out. Okay? It could be literal too, but I see it like, that's a slow process, you know, and before we even get to the intestines, there's so many steps before that, right? And it all starts with you, what you choose to pick up, to put into your body, what you choose to ingest, to have a part of you, right? You choose it. No one's really stuffing anything down your throat. No one's stuffing anything into your life. You choose. You choose, Cancer. And I heard that most of you are old enough to know that the wisdom that you've gained through your experiences are supposed to show you what it is that you need to know and feel strong about it. Feel confident about it. Feel able, capable about it. You have to cut the negative things out of your life and be okay with them. You have to learn how to feel victorious in what it is that you've achieved. And actually saying that a little bit out loud. You know what I mean? Like, man, I'm proud of myself. Or like, I was being really judgmental right there. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Just like some sort of honesty, right? Come after Gemini, like this really honest communication is really, really, really important. It's all mental here too. It's interesting. No water. You have to learn how to say no also. Yep. You have to learn how to say no. But not by being silent. By actually saying it. Okay? I see Pisces has a message for you also. I want you to know with this hermit that this hermit is very wise. Okay? Very, very, very wise. And Pisces does have a message. I don't know if I just said that. And I want you to know that you have, that you can see, okay? That you have great problem solving skills. That you have to learn how to say enough is enough too. I guess that goes back to the no. But like, enough is enough. I need some time for myself. Stuff like that. I don't want you worried about the winter. I see you'll make it through just fine. Okay? I also see you having fun in like learning how to have more, because these are really serious cards, you know. So you got to figure out things mentally in your head, like I said, like logically speaking, and digest it accordingly. But I also see that you need to have more fun. I think a lot of you are thinking, you're going to be thinking a lot and trying to figure stuff out, and you can, and you are, and you will, but it's kind of like you have to balance that a bit, because maybe that's why it goes all the way to Libra. You have to balance it a bit and not let your relationships with other people and how they feel affect the path that you're on, because it's not your job to be in charge of someone else's soul's journey, nor is anybody else in charge of yours. We are each in charge of our own. We're all driving our own chariot, right? One person. So how fast and where and with who, if you're going to drag something behind, or, you know, where you want to go, it's all different. No wasp. So be aware of that. It's 3333. Love you. Peace. Leo, hi. The Sun and the Six of Wands. Wow, that's the most positive we've had here. Two suns. Leo, you have Saturn in the 6th house. Well, ascendant anyway. Come on, dude. Kind of aggressive here. Seriously. Please. You're driving me nuts. Don't eat that lizard. That's my friend, please. Okay, so you rule pets. Animals, excuse me. Well, this is interesting. So this is Saturn. This is your karma. This is, in a way, like time, what you're fixing. Well, you're fixing you. That's huge. You have your own card. And you have Saturn in the 6th house. Fascinating. Okay, That video I did for mid-month May, Leo, you should watch that every month. Find an MP4 downloader or MP3 downloader and get it, because it's important. You paying attention, you should really do some research, especially, of course, this is Leo ascendant is where this Saturn specifically would be, but it affects everyone that's Leo, right? So I guess the point is however you used to define yourself and your person and how you presented that to the world as successful, say even 6 years ago, right? 6 months ago even, it's changed. Things have changed. And you have to start realizing that, well, A, you are victorious if you don't feel that way. Some of you could also be healing and solving something with children, okay? Most of you accept how different you are as a person, like uniquely speaking. I heard it depends what nakshatra you are. Let me see. This is really, because it's not like Saturn necessarily represents what's bad or what you're losing. It's the lessons you're learning. So I guess, let me see here. Well, you're learning that something about your own uniqueness. You're learning something about how you, there are certain crowds that you don't fit in with anymore, okay? That your person, and again, who you are, how you define yourself, how you're presenting yourself to the world, your personality, maybe what it always has been, or if that got muddled a little bit, like the sunshine got a little overcast or something, like at some point in your life, maybe even in childhood, right? There was something like those kinds of things can become a lot more brighter. They can become a lot more vibrant if you want them to, but you have to believe that you can, and you have to take that good Leo energy, the sun energy, although the sun is malefic, and use it positively, okay? The sun in a small amount is an accelerator. A sun in large doses it brings you down, okay? It drains your energy. Small doses gives you energy. Large doses drains your energy. So this goes back to your routines. If you're doing too much of one thing that isn't for your greatest, highest good, then it will drain you. Okay? I mean, of course, you can do things that are for your greater good, like say even, let's say for tarot, for instance, like you have tools that you use for your healing and things like this. They can be helpful, but of course you have to replenish you're the sun, your energy, right? You have to learn how to replenish your energy in a really healthy way, in a way that's like, well, I heard, what do you want in the future? Do you want to be married? Do you want kids? If you're older, it's like, how do you view marriage and family now, right? How do you view romance and fun now than say you did when you were a kid? Like, some sort of, I guess the thing, oh, that's interesting. I heard that Led Zeppelin song, Been This Way 10 Years to the Day, right? So if there's anything that you've been doing for 10 years that isn't for your greatest, highest good, and you know it, it's inappropriate to your, it's an improper routine, right? It's not beneficial to your own success. It's not beneficial to your actual authentic person, then you have to change it. Because if you do, then you end up with the Six of Wands and the Sun card. Okay? If not, I guess you end up with the Five of Wands and the Moon, which is not very beneficial. Not very beneficial at all. It's you not being able to have fun or work with other people. You have a hard time communicating. Everything's confusing. It's like all muddled and weird and you can't see. And the water puts out the fire, right? So like, be in this energy. Be aware, and I heard responsible for yourself, and make sure that this white horse is pulling you. Okay. Your reasonable side versus just your desires. Okay. Make sure because Saturn is unhealthy ego, where it debilitates you and breaks you down, pushes you down, punches you in the face. And Leo ego is healthy ego, like, yeah, I can do that. Okay. I do see a lot of you, if you do have children, you could definitely fix something with that also. Like, you could start working on that, but how you'll have a better relationship is if you start having that better relationship, better routines, better habits with yourself, right? Paying attention to your mental, physical, spiritual health, physical health, okay? Okay. Love you. Virgo. The Fool and the Nine of Swords. Just a minute. Well, why do you have to go that way? What? You don't have to go the way that you've always gone. You don't have to. Nope. You don't have to go into the mess anymore if you don't want to. Particularly mentally for you. You don't have to. I know you're wondering, I sense you wonder to yourself the question, how do people do that? How do people do that? Why do they do that? Stay close, Issa. I guess you also need to be less concerned about what other people are doing. Like, not being, just not being overly concerned about what people are doing. That's part of your lesson with Saturn here. I feel like I mentioned this to you before with what Saturn in the 9th house means. So there's something about no rigidity in your mind, okay? Less rigidity in your mind. It's a softer situation. You don't have to go that way. Whatever the way is that you've always gone that brings you to a place of, oh, fuck. Fuck. You know what I mean? Where you have more peace about the situation. You're less impulsive too, mentally. Okay? Maybe even verbally, depending on what else is going on in your chart. I also see, for those of you who are interested in evolutionary astrology, which I really like a lot, Uranus is what holds your, like, soul's memory, so they say. And I see you should look up what it means to have Uranus in the 9th house in evolutionary astrology. This will give you some sort of indication. They usually break it up in quarters, depending on the quadrants. But that would be very helpful for you, because I think where I heard some of your worry or pessimism comes from is because you carry that memory from long time ago. And now you have a wonderful opportunity to not have to go there. Because you have a better handle on what goes on in the shadow world of yourself, particularly mentally, right? You come to some sort of, like, more peaceful place about it. You also understand more about your own cycles and your own self and your own journey, whoever you are, and what your makeup is all about, right? Recognizing more about who it is that you are. And again, with Saturn, I mentioned this before, until you're about 35, Saturn, depending on how it is placed in your chart, it's like that. It can kick your ass till then, pretty bad. I mean, it depends how fast you learn the lessons, but of course, we're all chose it the way we chose it. So there's something about if you're older than that, well then, and if it's been seemingly easier and easier, then just keep at it and don't be so worried about, am I going to fall into the trap of what I fell into the trap of before? I don't want to be foolish. You're taking this wisdom aspect, but there's also this perfection attached where you're like, I don't want to, it's almost like a little bit of fear, like I don't want to go there, because if I go there, I don't want to get stuck like I did last time. I heard I don't want to do what I did last time, and I don't want to do what they're doing. But not necessarily judging for whoever the whatever the they are doing, but where it's like you, well, you're an air sign, so you can fly. You know what I mean? You're an air sign that's grounded. So the more that you can keep your mind in check, and when it starts to worry, you just keep telling yourself, confirming with yourself that you're going through something brand new, and the beginning of something new has always got bumps in the road. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. It's really not. And you know, what have you accomplished, Virgo, in the last 3 years? I bet it's quite a bit for most of you. You know, what have you accomplished in the last 3 years? How much has your life changed in the last 3 years? And I heard, are you ready for the next step? Specifically being emotionally fulfilling, right? Not just mentally satisfying or being in that one world, the air world, but also being in the water world, right? If you keep your mind in check and you do as the best that you can to, again, remind yourself that you're going through something new, that there's the brand new chapters, you're rewiring your brain in a way so that you don't worry about stuff. So you don't feel foolish when you go to a dark space. If you feel foolish about it, then you're closing yourself off to learning what you need to learn in that shadow world. If you're open to it, then you won't be ashamed, you won't feel foolish, and then actually you'll feel courageous. And then you'll get from the fool to the magician, and you'll realize you can do everything, that you have everything that you can do with, and then you get to the next step and you start seeing these little signs that indicate that you're going the right way, right? And then things start to grow, and then you start feeling good about it and empowering, and we smile and smile. I've been telling you since last year, you gotta smile more. You do. You know, I don't even like my smile, but everybody looks good when they smile. We're the only animal that shows their teeth when we're happy. When we're every other animal does it when they're aggressive, you know? So enjoy that. You're not a wolf this time. You're not a lone wolf this time, even though you feel like it sometimes. And I also see that don't feel foolish to reach out to people when you're in a dark space, or if you're like going through something that you're worried about or whatever. Like, no, you know, of course, talk to God, right? Like, so, there. Love you. All right, Libra, Saturn. Your cards did a swoop earlier, ended up in the reverse. So you have the Nine of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands, but they were in the reverse. We're going to look at them upright, but we'll just take note of that. Interesting. Just a minute. So you have it in the 4th house, right? Okay, yeah. It makes sense they ended up in the reverse. So, you have two suns also, just like Leo. So Leo has a message for you. So does Cancer. So, well, I see keep working on your inner child. Please keep working on your inner child. If you have children, please be... Okay, regardless of the children, but that is important. You also have, of course, an inner child. It's like, the more you work on yourself as a person, right? All the things. As much as possible. And really keep at it. Then you fix something with the inner child. You become a little bit more like Aries in a really positive way. You get that kind of drive back. Maybe some of you you felt like maybe you lost your spark, or your spark only gets so big and then it kind of fizzles out, right? Or maybe you feel like other people, when you're around one-on-one partnerships, they sort of take your spark, right? Or you give it to them unconsciously, subconsciously, sometimes even consciously give away your energy. But Aries is a bit more protective with that, okay? And I see that you, with this transit, I actually see you doing a pretty good job with it. Honestly. You have to keep at it. I see the middle of August, something for you. I see any fire signs in your life that have been challenging. It's interesting being specific, but I am seeing it this way. Specifically, it can be anybody, but I also see people you've dated. Like, maybe some of you are working on... Okay, it makes sense. Fourth house, Saturn in the fourth house is your root chakra, right? So it has a lot to do with your stability. It's where you have sex. It's really intimate. Scorpio and you actually both rule that area of the body. So, obviously, in ways of sex, also, it's like releasing some sort of energy within that root chakra so that you feel more safe and love. You feel and you know, energetically, mentally, bodily, spiritually, you know that you are safe and loved and protected. Okay? But the journey's not done. And I sense this is interesting. I sense every 2 weeks you end up getting thrown off by something through this transit. Like there's little tests. So I heard if you don't, all right. Well, if you don't fail, meaning with Saturn, you don't give yourself so much shit if you don't do it exactly perfect because you're still working on it. But where you're like, Saturn's like, you made a mistake. Like, why did you react that way? Or are you acting like you did when you were a kid? Or are you treating yourself like your parents treated you the way you didn't want? Or your teacher or whoever it was, right? Like, instead of being like, all shameful that you did something wrong or getting in a really dark space, you stay in the light and you're like, oh, you're right, yeah, I did do that. And then teacher's like, why did you do that? And you say, I did that because I learned this then, and that still affects me. And so when you connect these dots, it's like, and then the teacher's going to be like, okay, great, now back to the lesson, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? So this will also help your relationships, especially those of you who are single or who are trying to figure out how to be an independent person within a relationship, regardless of whether you're in one or not, because it's a challenge for you in a way. You like the union, right? You love the union. It's comfortable to you, right? But you, again, knowing your own uniqueness, like your own, it makes sense to Virgo mention this little lone wolf here. You actually have a wolf, a butterfly, a crow, and a horse. Powerful animal, lots of animals. Most of this whole deck, most of them are just crows. It's very interesting. So there's many different, I see that there's also a lot of animal medicine around you. Maybe even plant medicine would be helpful. I see flower essences if you're into that sort of thing. Being intentional with your situation, and also being more honest with the energy that you are able to give, what it is that's going on inside of your heart, and letting the past go. You know what I mean? Just letting go of it. I see Pisces has a message for you. The wolf in a way, you have a wolf with you. You have wolf energy with you during this time, and that's really good. It's really good. Let me see. The wolf wants you to know something about that you can let go. That you can let go of something. And letting go of whatever it is that you're letting go of, because I sense it's also in your psyche. You're not losing anything just because you let go of something, okay? You're not less of a person. But sometimes when we remove things from the memory or from the emotions or from the energetic body or even this deep in the psyche, right, we can feel that empty space. And I heard maybe for some of you used to fill that with another person when you felt that way, like a relationship, or you put it into your job or what have you. But I see for most of you a relationship. But the thing is you're starting to figure out more about who it is that you are, and what is it that how is it that you're energetically drawn towards something. Okay? How your energy works more. I also see the horse is also going towards Scorpio, so they could have a message too. Love you. Scorpio. Saturn messages. 7 of Pentacles, 3 of Wands. Oh, I'm sorry. 8 of Pentacles, different. 3 of Wands. Just a minute. I was just trying to do like a mathematical equation in my head. It's so silent, Scorpio. I see you're not so concerned about other people. I know you feel a lot of energy of the world, right? You feel like psychic energy. Way people think, if they're thinking about you, you know what I mean? Like you can sense it. But I sense that what's happening here is you're learning better boundaries about something. It's not that you can't tap into that if you want to. You can. But I see that that is not the point. I see the point is for you to continue to work on whatever it is that you're working on. Continue to work on your imbalances, your cycles that you're closing out. I feel like you are, I saw scales, like you are, you're trying to balance something. Okay? Keep at that, because whatever you're doing is giving you a broader scope and perspective to what you can achieve. I see that you can't see what the end of this retrograde is going to be, but I don't want you to worry about that at all. Do you hear me? You can see it, but you can't. Do you know what I mean? So, like, try not to worry about it. Okay, it's kind of like, all right, I'm putting in this time, I'm putting in this energy, I'm working on this, I'm figuring that out, I'm balancing this, I already got these things in order. There's a lot of organization. Keep one eye, right? The crow has one eye on the human, one eye on God all the time. But you're not the crow, so you have one eye on what you're doing and one eye on God all the time. One eye on the future all the time. On faith, right? Because you can't see God, well, unless you want to look out into this beautiful world, right? It depends how you look at it. But the point is that, like, it's not about seeing it. It's not about seeing, it's about doing. Once you do, then you'll be able to see. And I actually see you having, like, a physical result. This, for you, it's interesting. You got earth and fire. It's, which is actually the desert, right? Hi, Sparrow. But I keep seeing this oasis in the middle of the desert. So it's kind of like that. It's like you're walking through this desert, but metaphorically speaking, I don't sense your life dry or without or anything of that nature. That's all up to you, right? And we talked about that. You got to know your worth. You have to know your worth through your skill set and have a high perspective, right, about yourself. Be okay with that. It's not egotistical to appreciate yourself. Okay? So with that oasis, it's like because I saw you, it's like you could see it, but you couldn't. It's like you could see it in your mind's eye, and you have to trust every step that you're walking in life right now, all the little things that you're putting time and energy and money into for the future, right? For now, which represents the future, etc., which is not directly worried about the past. It's like you can't, it's like the past has to be back there. Because it doesn't really have anything to do with now unless we want to keep dragging it along. Yes, it makes up who it is that you are in ways of experience and wisdom, and Saturn rules that kind of stuff, you know? But it's like, I heard, have you learned to love yourself yet? And trust, right? If you're considering how in tune you can be, if you what did I see? Hold on. It's like that. Okay, so you felt something that came from somewhere. Some soup went through, right? In your mind's eye, in your feelings, whatever. But did it have anything to do with right now? No, we were trying to tap into the past. See, it didn't let us. That's good. Because it's not really relative anymore. It's not relative. And I think really, again, having better boundaries with yourself energetically, then you won't be so concerned about whatever it is that's going on all around you. You can't tap into the whole world's energy and fucking read people's minds across thousands of miles. Why would you do? It's exhausting. Why do you even bother? I mean, if you do that for, like, say, a job, or it's part of your person with your, you know, if you're healing someone that wants it, or that wants to connect in that way, then sure. But, like, don't. The point is not to waste your energy. It's, you really have to focus in on yourself. There are other people around you, but I see it's important to keep them not the focus. The focus is you. And it's not about being selfish. It's about learning something that caring for yourself, right, is not selfish. And that you can do something. I see in August you're going to gain some sort of different perspective too on the situation. Maybe you'll be able to see a little bit of that oasis, right? Because again, like I was going to say, you're walking through the desert, you can't, it's like hills of sand, right? You have to trust yourself that, again, where you're putting your time, your energy, money, your step-by-step situation, that you are going the right way. And that you will find that oasis, and you will find that peace, and it will be lush, and it will be comfortable, and it will be cool, and the right temperature, you know? That's comfortable for you and what you need. You're going towards that. Okay. I also heard, believe what it is that you see, because I think that's part of it, so that the past doesn't repeat anymore. And this goes back to trusting yourself, like, everything's already right in front of you all the time, right? And you can't do anything about the things that you didn't see before, but you told, and whatever has happened in the past, or your past lives, whatever. But you certainly can change those cycles now, and I see if you put in the work, Saturn will definitely grant you some sort of, it's like a connector. It's the bridge I'm talking about too. We talked about in mid-May. You're tapping into that. So remember, bridge, brick by brick. Brick by brick. Okay, Sagittarius. We have Page of Pentacles and Two of Wands. Maybe for some of you, going to school or taking some sort of class or enhancing your education in some kind of way would be very beneficial to whatever it is that's going on with your Saturn. Okay? I also see you being able to combine forces with others where it's a bit sweeter. Will happen in the future. It's hot today, hold on. I think you're learning something about Aries too that's really helpful here. About how your action... Well, you're learning more about, okay, I also see this in other people's actions. It's like appreciating other people's actions when they're really positive, right? Like actually expressing that. And then also seeing what fits together and what doesn't. Okay? Right? Because sometimes we take action, a person does an action, and that causes a result, right? A repercussion, if you will, some way or another. Of course, this can be positive or negative. I see you learning how to work better with other people. And again, I see what is suiting and what is not. There's something about next spring, which we talked about in your mid-month reading in May. You know, what are your goals for next year? Where do you want to be? What do you want to grow in the garden? What do you, what would you like for your children if you have them? If you don't, what would you like your inner child to see or experience, right? I do see that you are learning great things. A lot of you may be also feeling like you're working solo on something, right? Like you have to. But I sense this goes back to you learning how people work, how you work, and then how you work together, right? This is sort of the trifecta of the situation. I see 2 peas in a pod. Two peas in a pod. It does depend which way you look at it, you know. Like, I guess you need to remember, too, wherever Saturn is for you, is something about, like, whatever, especially with relationships with people, and certain actions that certain people have taken, and again, what those repercussions or, like, results were. Where you ended up going in different directions, even though you were connected at some point. Oh, it's okay, Zumi. It's okay. Come here. It's okay. You okay? It's okay. It's okay. Oh, no, don't. You're gonna jump out there? Just a second. Hey. Come here. I don't want you scared. It's okay. Come here, Zumi. It's just a big old gunshot. Issa. Oh, you're right there. Stay close, okay? I guess what that coming up is also you to remember, I forget what I was saying, but this is the point now, is everybody's scared of different stuff, right? So maybe learning a little bit more about how people react due to their fear or due to what makes them feel insecurities that come up, yourself and others. And then realizing, again, how those things combined. How do you work together with a situation when you're different in ways, right? Learning more about that, and then again, seeing what fits and what doesn't. Okay, because not everything fits. I gotta check on Zumi, hold on. Zumi! Come here, baby. Zumi, oh, you're right there? You wanna come here? Come on. Come on, Julie. Come on. She's scared. We'll just leave her be. She wants to... Oh, yeah, come on. Good girl. Come over here. You want a treat? Come on. Just a second. Wow, my hair was a disaster. Would you like a treat? See, sometimes you just have to observe. Right? Good girl. Like her tail's tucked, so she's scared. So maybe paying attention to body language will also, hi baby, give you some sort of indication about what you're learning, okay? The actions that people take, what they're afraid of, and body language, and that all is connective to how other people work and how you work, how you work together, and what fits and what doesn't. Okay? Love you, Sagittarius. Capricorn. Wow. Queen of Wands and the Ten of Pentacles. Well, there could be something with family that's happening. Just a minute, please. Well, there's different directions here, okay? Gotta get comfortable for this one. What are you learning? I guess you're learning something about family. You could be putting a lot of work into your career, okay? Or thinking about the future of your career, the future of your financial well-being, your face in the world, right? Like, what does that look like? I see you in the future either partnering up financially or otherwise. But it's someone who's just like you, right? I also heard pay attention to people who look like you, too. It's an interesting reading, Capricorn. It's almost silent like Scorpios. Well, I see you need to get your money in order. I see your power of will and your creative endeavors could be very beneficial to the future. I do see Scorpio has a message for you. Try not to be too concerned about if there's any kind of situation inside of you where you're still mad at whatever has happened to you. So, well, to you, because it doesn't really work like that. We choose. I mean, and if something happened when we were really small, then it's what we still, our soul chose, right? Or at least that's the way I perceive it, because of the situations I've had in my life that were hardcore and I didn't know how else to deal with it. I find it to be, personally, a pretty wise way to look at it, is that when you start looking at your hardships as wonderful lessons, which is Saturn in essence, and you're ruled by Saturn, you know, it's like, you can't place, I heard you can't place your value on your family or on other people, right? You just, it doesn't, or, you know, your family, your job, other people, you can't place your value in there. Your value has to come from inside of yourself. And if you still think that it's someone else's fault to why whatever is happening now, then you're missing the lesson. So if you do feel that way in some sort of way, well then you got to go inside of yourself and be able to see the mirror. Because what does Jesus say to, I forget who asked him, but they were talking about forgiveness. And this man asked Jesus, he was like, how many times should I forgive, you know, how many times do I have to forgive thy brother, you know, a person? And he's like, what, 7? And Jesus is like, no, 70 times 7. You know, say someone did something awful to us as a person, right? Which happens to everybody. And of course, there are different degrees depending on your perspective, but say something awful happened in your life in the past, right? Because this is what Saturn is the past. Well, with Saturn, that's your karma. You needed to experience that situation, however brutal it was, or whatever it did to change the foundation of yourself and your life in the way it's defined, right? In the physical world, so that you could learn some sort of karmic lesson about so you could progress in the soul's journey. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we learn great lessons, is through the hardest things. You ask people when the last bad day they had was, they usually know. You ask someone when the last time they had a good day, you know, when's the best day that they had recently, it's harder for people to pick it up, you know. And the thing is I know that you're so industrious and you're so dedicated, but I also know that you like to go by the book. But the thing is the world doesn't go by the book all the time. And whose book? Who's writing it? You know what I mean? Like, it's a subjective perspective. So, again, we've been talking about this for a while, and I know that I was preparing everyone for Saturn, but like, it's a big animal. Who are you? No family, no lover, no husband, no wife, no kids, no job, no neighborhood, no fucking country club, whatever you do, VFW. It's like, who are you? Who are you? Because I know for most of you, there's a significant change in who it is that you are. You know, Saturn and Capricorn in your first house, well, at least if you're Capricorn ascendant, that's a huge deal, right? And of course, if you're dealing with anyone who's had this in their chart, that's you're directly affected, right? But the thing is everything has happened for good reason. And I guess that's something that you have to come to solidify inside of yourself. Be able to again, like, say someone hurt you. It's not about saying like, oh, well, what you did was right. But it's, I forgive you, in the sense that I'm not going to let that situation cause you as a person any more pain. Okay? Because, again, because sometimes we're directly like in the crossfire of a situation, and sometimes we're it affects us in a sideways way, right? Maybe it's in our circle of friends or whatever it is. But the thing is it all happened for good reason. There's the mathematical equation is there, right? There's no question about it, really. And it's a good place to be because it frees you inside of your body from judging yourself and judging others, because that's not beneficial. You know what I mean? We don't need any laws to have a civilized world. Just do not cause any. You can do whatever you want, just don't cause any harm. If everyone lived from that, right? What's it called? A prana? No, I'm saying it wrong. But that's just one simple rule. That's all we need. That's the only rule we need, and it doesn't need to be written in stone or, you know. It's really basic. And I know you can do it. Love you. Aquarius, Saturn. 7 of Wands, 4 of Wands, all fire. Wow. Well, don't be a lemming. Don't follow the pack. Okay? I heard don't follow the group think. Whatever that is. But it doesn't mean... Okay, our top 5 friends, top 5 people we hang out with, handful of people, right? That defines who it is that we are. You hang out around with a bunch of drunks, you're probably drunk. You hang around with a bunch of junkies, you probably do a bunch of drugs. You hang around with a bunch of folks who go to church every Sunday, you're probably going to hang out, you're probably going to be a church-going kind of folk too. Right? You hang out, you're vegetarian, you're probably going to hang out with mostly vegetarians. Things like this, it just happens to vibrate. Right? I forget who else had it. I think Libra, but makes sense, it's air. But the last 3 years, what has all gone down in the last 3 years, Aquarius? Where have you lived? How have you redefined home to yourself? Physically, like your home. Where literally like where you've resided, how you felt there, all that, but also this home, right? Your body. I really do see, even though you're such a unique person, whoever you hang around with, you are easily influenced. You actually are easily influenced. I mean, again, you have your own perspective about it, but you are actually influenced by them. So I see it's really important for you to be very conscious and aware of who you hang out with. Pay attention to them. Like, who are your top handful of people that are around you, and what are their qualities? What are their attributes? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? If you look at it in this way, right? You try to view it in this way, then you will learn a whole heck a lot about yourself. I see that if you're married, your marriage could become way better in the future. Okay? I see that your home could be a lot better. Like, home will be way better too. Like, entirely more positive and together. Okay? I do see a bit of duality here too. There's another message where, say everybody is doing, those top 5 people are doing something that you don't want to do. Well, you're allowed to say no also, right? That's part of who you are at times, right? The lemming or groupthink and things like this, it's jumping on a boat without thinking about it. So there's something about you thinking about it and then being like, do I want to do that or not? But also, because you're in that group of friends, sometimes you have to do something. It's real life, right? Sometimes you may be asked to do something that you don't want to do. Or maybe, you know, it's kind of like, I heard, you know, those times where I've talked to folks where they're like married and the husband isn't actually, say the wife doesn't, the husband likes sports, but the wife doesn't. But sometimes the wife will sit down and like watch football or whatever, they watch soccer with them together, right? It's kind of like a compromise. Learning to compromise a little bit better. Like, you're allowed to say like, hey, I know you like doing this, but I'm going to actually go do my own thing. And then you have this like clear communication about it. That's more of the understanding that's necessary. Or again, you know, instead of being like, oh, I hate it when you watch sports all the time, which I whatever. I'm not going to put my personal opinion in here. But the point is that, say there's a thing that somebody does that you don't like that's in your group of friends. Well, I heard, A, that's none of your business what they like. They're allowed to like whatever they like. You don't have to like it too. You don't have to ultimately, again, just jump off the cliff like a bunch of lemmings. Like, oh, well, you like that, I guess I like that. Or you don't like that, I don't like this. Keeping your uniqueness about it, but also, again, I see compromise. Uranus in your 4th house, also Aquarius, is important. It could, for a lot of you, it can very well shake up your marriage if you're married, or where you live, your home. This probably already happened, if it is happening. And it's probably still changing because it takes a while. But whatever's going on with that is helping people to, well, it's helping you come down the mountain a little bit, okay? Like, if there's anywhere, I heard that you were high on your horse, then you get down to the ground and you're like, okay, let's have a conversation about this. Let's be more equal about it, okay? And if anybody is overstepping their boundaries in some kind of way, then you speak up for yourself, right? And, or at very least you say, like, this isn't comfortable to me, or this isn't what I want, or this doesn't work for me. Can we try to have a compromise? If the compromise can't be had, then I see that there are things where that group of people may change, right, in the future. I see the last 3 years, and I see the next 3 years in the future, okay? 2 of them. It's like you made a decision 3 years ago, in a way. I also see something about last July. And something about January that's important. I also see that it's very important, regardless of whether you live with other people or you're in a relationship, whatever, you need to make sure that you take enough time for yourself to do the thing that is unique to you, that your friends don't even, whether your friends like it or not, you need to go take time alone by yourself. That also will help your relationships, okay? Your home, physically, literally, all this, okay? Your own emotional stability, really, is what happens, which gives you clearer communication, which is helpful because that's what you want, right? All right, last but not least, Pisces. Wow, Pisces. Well, you ended up with the Tower and the Devil in reverse. That's extremely powerful. We'll take... these cards are all in the upright, so we'll take note that's in the reverse. It could be something about Capricorn for you. But whatever it is with Capricorn, you're unchaining yourself from it. There's some sort of, this could also be Capricorn in your chart, but like where you... Well, I heard, are you relying on anything outside of yourself? And are you comfortable in accepting yet to the changes that you are going through? The changes that have happened, right? The big situations that have gone on that have completely shifted your foundation of yourself in the past, right? This is actually, Capricorn is Saturn. We're talking about Saturn in retrograde here. Let me see. I want an extra card because these are super intense. You have 2 major arcana. You're the only one that's had that. What's this about? The 4 of Pentacles. Okay, so are you... Wheel of Fortune. Yes. Are you dragging around... Well, the thing is this tower, whatever this tower is or was, is the tower moments in your life, if you will, right? Which basically are situations that went on too long and things weren't actually healthy for either you and or the other person. And so, because no one took a conscious action to solve whatever was going on, then the universe steps in and it's like, all right, I'm shaking this up. You can't keep doing this to yourself. Right? I think some of you started a bad habit. When was your first tower moment? For those of you who are kind of new to tarot or a different perspective, again, it's like tower moment. When was the first shake up in your life? You know, major transition. That was a little bit traumatic. And or when was the last one? Okay? Or if I say just like traumatic event, what do you think about? Where do you go on this timeline? Okay? And wherever that is, I see that you need to nurture that part. And because I think that your inner child is there, kind of like gathering, it wants to like hold on to the rebel somewhat. And it can't. You can't move forward that way. You have to... because I think for some of you also, maybe you want to completely eradicate your shadow, but you can't because the ocean is dark. You know what I mean? You rule the ocean. Let me see here. All the hard things in your life that have happened, again, traumatic or however the depth was there to show, they all happened so that it could remind you that you can fly. Okay? That you are free. That you are not imprisoned. That you are not, that you are able to do something different. And that there's something about, you know, maybe for some of you it has to do with family. You know what I mean? I see Capricorn strong again. You know, I forget who I was just telling. Oh, Capricorn. Yes. Yes. Justice card. Everything that has happened in our lives and to other people that either directly or indirectly affected us was there because that was what everybody's soul's journey was signed up for in their own little way. And I know that it takes a lot of maturation to be able to get to a point of acceptance, but I want you to know that you can get to that point, and you can fly free because you already are. That's the thing. But you do have to let go of one more thing. And maybe what that thing is how to let go of it is forgiveness, because you know what, Pisces, you rule that. You rule forgiveness and compassion and empathy and cycles ending, right? Completions. So, you know, maybe for some of you, there's a piece of you that's a little bit unsympathetic at times to yourself and maybe to even others. Like something big happens with them and you're like, get over it. No big deal. And I mean, in one way, I see the perspective of that, right? But the thing is especially when it comes to Saturn, it's like, well, I guess you just have to face it, whatever it is. And I see Libra has a message for you. Everything has happened for a reason, Pisces. Do you know that yet? Do you really know that? In every cell of your body, do you know that yet? I know that's a lot. But do you know it yet? Can you feel it? Can you at least feel it? Right, that everything is happening for good reason? You can't keep carrying the rubble. No one's allowed to carry the rubble of the past with them anymore. You have to solve the situation. And actually, with the devil coming out in reverse originally, I see that well, you're becoming less afraid. You know? And more grateful, and more understanding. We all get exactly what it is that we deserve. I mean, we have to take certain steps, right, to get there. And of course, you know, letting things peter down to the tower and then having decisions from there is different. That's more devil energy, right? You want to, sure, this may have happened in the past, but it doesn't have to happen in the future, right? It doesn't have to happen in the future because you'll start making more conscious decisions because you're not so afraid of what it is that has happened, so it doesn't affect what's going on now, right? Afraid or like upset about, right? Because again, you rule forgiveness, so is there anyone you need to forgive? And like I told Capricorn, just if someone did something that was real wrong, really, really wrong, and we're allowed to say that, let's say disharmonious, if you want to get whatever about it. But the point is forgiving someone for doing something that was inappropriate or disharmonious is not saying to that person what you did was right. What it says is, I forgive you because through your maturity you understand that everybody's going through their own stuff, and everyone's closing out different cycles and all this kind of jazz, and then you can release yourself from the pain of holding on to that pain, because what you're actually doing is forgiving yourself. Because for whatever reason, whether you were directly or indirectly related to whatever that tower was in the past, it's like, or those towers were in the past, it was part of what you needed. You know what I mean? It was part of what you needed, so it could cut out what wasn't working anymore and what was old and stagnant and molding and just gross. You know, it wasn't growing anymore. It wasn't glowing anymore. It was just stagnant. And so you cut it out, and it cut people out of your lives, and it cut people's, connections to one another. It's done that, right? It does that. But what does life do? Well, then it brings us to this really beautiful place of getting to where it is that we really want to go, and what actually feels good, right? To your person. To you energetically, as yourself, depending who you are. And that's cool. It's really nice to be able to look back on the past, and if you end up talking about it, sure, that could happen, but really it's kind of like, just even when you feel about it, you're like, I'm so happy that happened, because I wouldn't be here now, right? Alright, well, I love anybody who's still here, or Pisces, you always get the end of the spiel. But thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in wanting to learn more and not being afraid of learning. I really admire and appreciate all of you. Alright, I will post that Pluto video soon. For the rest of the day, I am going to take a nap in the grass and hang out with the dogs and draw a picture of a bird. Alright, take care of yourself. Peace.